Hey, Cassie. Okay, let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out this YouTube thing, like how to go live on here. So, let's see. Okay, so I think I've got it. Can the three people on Facebook hear me? Can you guys hear me? And then over here, let's see. Yes, you can hear me. Good. Okay, let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to figure this out. I've never done this and it's driving me crazy because I've never done it on YouTube, so I don't know how to turn it on, but anyway, I'm live on YouTube also. So, can you hear me over here on YouTube? Okay, so here's what we're doing. So as I explained earlier, and sorry about the confusion because I've never done a live on YouTube, so I had scheduled it, but then I went on, didn't know how to get on, but I'm ready to bake. So usually what we're gonna do today is we're going to make my sugar cookie dough recipe. What I always like to do before I start is I actually lint rolled my shirt so that there's no hairs. And I have gloves on because I don't like to touch the butter, and a hairnet. So here's what we're doing today. And if you can please just continue to share this live because I'm not sure who's watching and who's doing what. But here's the recipe. So to start, I do have 2 sticks of unsalted butter at room temperature. And it's important for it to be unsalted because I have tried it with salted butter and it does taste a little bit different. I also have 1 large egg. Show you. So there's 1 large egg, and it is at room temperature also. So my other ingredients include vanilla. It doesn't have to be you know how sometimes people are like, oh, it has to be real vanilla. If it's imitation vanilla, it's okay. So we have vanilla. I have almond extract. And remember that any of these ingredients can be whatever brand you want to use. They don't have to be a specific brand. I also have 1 1/4 cups of granulated sugar. And throughout the recipe or throughout the steps that we'll be making or doing the cookie dough, I will be letting you know if you can do substitutions or if you change anything, if it'll affect your cookie dough in any way. And here I have 3 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour. Some people ask if they have to sift the flour. You don't have to. I never do. And in this little bowl, I have 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. So that's what we're going to need. And to start, what I'm going to do is I always like to take not my wet ingredients because they're not wet, but the first part of our recipe, which is the butter. So I'll take the butter, I'll place it into my mixing bowl, place it in there. I'm also going to take my sugar, and I'm placing my sugar into the same bowl. And what I'm going to do first is I'm actually going to give this mixture a little bit of a whisk, and I am using a stand mixer for this. It's a little bit easier. I have done this recipe with a hand mixer. It works fine. It just takes a little bit more time and it's a little bit more work. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear me while this is going, but I'm going to go ahead and place this right in with the paddle attachment. Okay. Okay, so hi everyone that is joining the live. I explained earlier that on my YouTube channel, I had shared a link, but I've never done a live on my YouTube channel, so I have no idea how to activate it. If anybody knows, let me know. Hi everybody over here on Facebook. And what we're doing is if you didn't catch the recipe, what we have in this bowl is we have 1 cup, or which is 2 sticks of butter, unsalted butter at room temperature, 1¼ cups of granulated sugar. So for this part, if you want to do any substitutions, you can definitely substitute granulated sugar for powdered sugar in equal parts. I have also done half powdered sugar and half granulated sugar. So what happens when you do the substitution is you'll get a much softer, smoother dough with powdered sugar. So this is the consistency we're looking for this part. This is butter and sugar. That's the consistency we're looking for. And yes, you can substitute granulated sugar for powdered sugar and vice versa, or half and half. Does anybody have any questions so far? Sorry about the YouTube thing, guys, over here. Now, once we have that part of our mixture, which is the butter and the sugar, we're going to go ahead and add 1 large egg. So I'm throwing that in there. There it is. And I'm going to give it a mix. So for this part is very important. This is where you want to mix for approximately, like, I would say 4 to 5 minutes. Okay, so what we're looking for is for this part, and I know a lot of people hate the word fluffy, but for the eggs, sugar, and butter to get fluffy. Okay, so some questions over here. Can you still hear me over the mixer on YouTube and on Facebook? Okay, yes, you can. Okay, so over on YouTube, one of the questions is, will powdered sugar make a softer cookie? It does make for a little bit of a softer cookie. And what also changes is the texture. So I don't know if you've seen cookies that are very smooth, very, you don't get granules of sugar. So what happens is when you substitute powdered sugar, that's the texture that you'll get. It makes for a much prettier cookie. And what happens with granulated sugar is that even when it bakes and even after we do this, like the mixing part, the granules are not all going to dissolve. So when you bake the cookie, it'll still be, you'll be able to see the granules. It won't be bumpy, but you'll be able to see the granules. So I prefer to do half and half powdered sugar, half granulated. But if you're looking for a soft, smooth cookie, then I would do all powdered sugar. And they taste the same, but even when you go to bite it, the texture is a little bit different. But they break easier. Yeah, usually they'll probably break a little bit easier. The thing with breaking and baking and sugar cookies is the temperature that you bake your cookies at and for how long. So actually, the last cookies that I made, which were those Eco Lab cookies, I made them with a modified version of this recipe with all powdered sugar, and they actually broke. But here's what I did different is I actually added more butter. I baked at a lower temperature, and when I took them out from the pan, I didn't let them cool enough so they broke. So if you're looking for your cookies not to break, I would suggest baking at a higher temperature for a bit longer. So, okay, I think this is about ready. Okay, wow, that was loud. Okay, so here's the consistency we're looking for when we put the egg into the butter and sugar mixture. It's very fluffy. It looks a little bit wet. That is the perfect consistency. So I'm going to go ahead and scrape all of this back in. And also remember that it's important for you to scrape the sides of your bowls every time you do this so that there's no butter or no other ingredients left on the edges of your bowl. Okay. So there we go. All right. Does anybody else have any questions? Anybody that came in just now? Okay. So now I'm going to take my dry ingredients, which is my flour, and I'm going to just pour the last of that in. And here I have half a teaspoon of salt and a quarter teaspoon of baking powder. So, like I said in the beginning, it's very, very important that if you are using salted butter, you skip the salt in this step. If you're not using salted butter, then go ahead and add the salt because it will alter the flavor of your cookies. Okay, I'm going to throw that in there. And I'm going to just give it a little bit of a whisk. There we go. And for this next part, when adding the flour in, some people do it a cup at a time, but I like to save time and I like to skip steps whenever I can. So I'm just going to take the entire thing of flour and I'm just going to throw it into this bowl. And I didn't sift my flour mainly because I just don't like to, and I like to skip steps, but you certainly can if you want to. For this part, we are also adding in our flavoring. And I did say in the beginning, if you wanted to use a different vanilla, this is the only vanilla that I have now. I have also used that, it's like a vanilla from Mexico that has a rooster on it. Can you use a hand mixer? What about subbing coconut oil for butter? You can use a hand mixer. The only thing about hand mixers is I would stop using it after you add the flour. So you would only use it to whip up the butter, the egg, and the sugar. And then adding in the flour, you can knead by hand. That's what I've done because I have used a hand mixer with the flour before and I burned it. So just a heads up. And what about subbing coconut oil for butter? I know that it's not coconut oil, but it's coconut shortening. They do sell it at specialty stores and it's specific for baking. I haven't tried actual coconut oil into these cookies, but I can certainly try that so I can give you a more precise answer. I do have coconut oil, so I can try that if you are interested, Cassie. But I do know that there is coconut oil shortening at specialty stores specifically for baking and replacing butter in items like these. So for our, what is this, like flavoring, I'm adding 1 tablespoon of vanilla. That's going in. And then for this next step, when I talked about substitutions and things you can replace, this is the part where you can replace flavorings also. So if you don't like vanilla, or if you don't want to use almond, you can definitely add lemon, orange, cinnamon, whatever other flavor you want to use. So for this next part, I'm adding half a teaspoon of almond extract. And this is totally optional. If you want to skip the almond extract, you can definitely add more vanilla or more of anything else that you want. So that's going in there. And I also want to mention the specific thing about this recipe is that it'll go in stages. So when you first add all this in, it's going to look like it's not coming together. And you're going to be like, oh my God, Cynthia, your recipe sucks. You don't know what you're doing. But trust me, you just have to give it time. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it on. I usually start pulsing it because I don't want it to go everywhere, but you're going to see that it goes on stages. So it'll start to look like sand. And then the longer you leave it mixing, the more cookie dough consistency it's going to be. So I'm going to turn this on. And if you have questions, I'll be reading both Facebook and YouTube, so you can ask me. Okay, we have a question in Spanish on YouTube. It says, no sé hablar mucho inglés. Quería preguntar si quedan las galletas suaves y no tan duras al comer. Sí, entonces, si quieres que te queden las galletas suaves, lo que pasa es que vamos a cocinar o a cocer, a hornear nuestras galletas en vez de a 350 grados, a 325 Fahrenheit por 12 minutos. Lo que expliqué hace ratito es que entre más alta la temperatura esté, más quedan las galletas así como duritas de atrás. Pero con esta receta, si las horneas a 325 Fahrenheit, entre 10 a 12 minutos, te quedan un poquito más suaves. Okay, so the question on YouTube was, if I want my cookies to be soft and not hard when I bite them, what should I do? So what I responded to that is that since it's very easy to adapt this recipe, what happens is that the higher you bake and the longer time you bake, the harder and the crunchier your cookies are. So we're going to bake this specific recipe at 325 degrees Fahrenheit for between 10 to 12 minutes, depending on your oven. You see what's going on? So it's coming together like a little ball. I love this bowl, you guys, because you can kind of see through. Obviously, it's not like super clear, but you can kind of see what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to show you when not to stop. So this is the part where people usually stop and they think they're done. And then you're going to be mad and complain that this recipe is not working for you. And this is where I tell you to keep going because we still need a lot more work to our recipe. And don't be scared to turn up the speed. Just be mindful not to overbeat this. Okay, so that was enough. And when it starts to pull off from the sides of your bowl, and when it starts to fall off from your attachment, that's when it's ready. Okay. And then for this part, you guys, hi from Texas. Oh my God, I'm actually from Texas, but I'm not there right now, obviously. But hi, thank you for sharing. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Like I actually didn't think anybody was gonna watch. And especially after the mishap that I had on YouTube where I didn't know what I was doing. But anyway, so for this part, this is where I also want to add suggestions. So you see how this is how the ready dough looks. Hi from Odessa. I used to live in Midland. You guys see that? Okay. So this is where we add a suggestion. Southern California. Oh my God, you guys, y'all are so amazing. Hi, Cindy. Oh, hey, Linda. We live in the same place, but anyway, um, for this specific recipe, what you want to do, if this is too soft for you, because you'll notice that it's not sticking to my gloves. But if this feels too soft, or if you start rolling it onto your mat and you feel like it's going to get stuck, what I usually do is that in this step, if I feel like I need more flour, I will usually add 1 tablespoon at a time of flour. You won't add cups of flour and cups of flour and cups of flour. Just add 1 tablespoon at a time until you feel like the consistency is good enough for you. So let me go bring some flour so I can add that in. Okay, so usually when I have batter like this, and this will definitely vary by oh, I know you have, Pam. I see you all the time. This recipe will vary, and many recipes will vary depending on where you live, how hot it is, how humid it is. So sometimes, you know, when we try recipes, we're like, oh, it doesn't work, it's not working, whatever. These are the kinds of substitutions that you can make. This recipe will not be altered too much if you add a little bit of flour. So I'm adding in 1 tablespoon of flour. And I'm adding in another tablespoon of flour. And these are heaping tablespoons, you guys, okay? And I like having these lives because these are the types of things that really don't make it into my YouTube videos. I try to be as descriptive as possible, but sometimes due to the length of time that I have on a video, if it's too long, sometimes you probably won't watch it. I try to make them as like informative as possible, but then sometimes I leave out stuff like this that is very important. So I'm going to go ahead and mix this in. And let me show you how it looks before I mix it in. Okay. So that's what we're looking at. Although my dough is not sticking to my bowl, I still feel like it needs a little bit more flour. And on certain days, it won't. On some days, it'll just come right off and you'll be able to work with it. Like when I used to live in Midland, it's so hot over there. So sometimes I would have to add a little bit of flour. But when I was in Houston, I would have to add a lot more flour. So here we go. And this is going to stress your mixer quite a bit. If you are doing this by hand, you'll be fine. You'll probably be a little bit tired, but you'll be okay. So there we go. Okay, this is perfect. So earlier it was very squishy. This is the perfect consistency. So at this point, this is a no chill, no spread cookie dough. So the cool thing about this, and when I first started baking cookies, I really, you guys, I hated them because I couldn't figure out why my cookies were spreading, why I had to refrigerate them every time I had to make them. It was just too much for me, you know, like the steps were just too many for me to follow. So, and of course, like when you refrigerate your cookie dough and like the different recipes, they all taste different. I just feel like this one is a lot easier for me to work with, so I love it. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to turn on my oven to show you how they come out when they are finished baking. Okay. So I have my oven set at 325, and I love baking my cookies on these pans. So these pans, I got them on Amazon, and the little liners I got off of Amazon too. I do find a huge difference with baking in pans that are like different color aluminums, like aluminum pans, the darker bottom pans, and then there's pans that are very thin, pans that are very thick. I will link these on my Instagram, on my Facebook, on my YouTube channel, so that you can get a hold of these. But what these do is these are actually commercial grade pans. So they're thicker, not aluminum. Is this aluminum? I don't know what this is, but a thicker material. And then what I love about this is that this is an extra protective layer. And I like baking on non-stick silicone mats instead of parchment because I feel like it keeps the cookie a little bit softer. So I'm going to set that aside. And we have a few questions over here. Do we have questions? Where do you purchase your kitchen gloves to handle food? These I get off of Amazon. Okay, if I haven't told you guys, I shop on Amazon because I do live in Pennsylvania. We live within walking distance of everything. We didn't bring a car because of the snow, because we're scared to drive in the snow. And I have to order everything off of Amazon because I don't make time to go to the store. That's really the truth. So these are from Amazon. I will link these on the bottom of this live, on this one, and everywhere else on my social media. And over here on Facebook, someone says, I always mess up on my sugar cookies. They always come out too sticky. So usually the remedy for sticky cookies would be adding a little bit more flour. It won't alter your recipe or your cookies too much to the point where the recipe is non-workable or not tasty anymore. You'll be fine. So just add a little bit more flour. For rolling my cookies, I use what I always use, which is my Dough Easy mat. And I'm going to do it this way so you guys can see a little bit better. So what this mat is actually a non-stick mat, and I'm trying to get you guys to see this. I think you guys can see that there. Okay, let me see. I think you can see that better there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a little bit of powdered sugar. Hi, Mona. I live in Houston, Texas. How much flour did you add here? So at the end, I added 2 heaping tablespoons, right? Two heaping tablespoons of flour to my original recipe. So I'm going to take a little bit of this powdered sugar and just sprinkle it onto my mat. And I do want to stress that although this is a non-stick rolling mat specifically for sugar cookies and desserts and baking and cooking and all that, I still like to spray it lightly with a little bit of powdered sugar. And I always use these rolling guides. So these rolling guides are approximately, what is this? I think 1/4 inch thickness. I have no idea, but this kit comes with 2 different thicknesses of rolling guides, but this is the one I like to use. So the next important thing for your cookie dough recipe, in case you can see, I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm trying to dust off the excess sugar off of my gloves. So the reason that I do that is because, do you guys know what crinkle top cookies are? I don't know if that's what they're called, like crinkle cookies or whatever, is sugar cookie dough sprinkled with powdered sugar on top. And that's what we don't want. We don't want crinkle top cookies. We want sugar cookies. So avoid touching the top of your cookie with the sugar cookie, the powdered sugar, sorry. So I'm going to place my cookie dough here. There we go. Okay. Hold on 1 second. Okay, let's see. Okay, you guys, I'm back. Sorry. Okay, so now that our dough is rolled, I'm going to just go ahead and roll it out. There we are. Okay, so someone says over here on YouTube, as I'm just starting with icing cookies and I was wondering what design should I start with. Really, you can start with any designs. What I would say is just to practice. I started with basic circle designs, but you can start with anything really. It's only a matter of practicing your piping and getting the sugar cookie dough right. So I'm going to take one of my cutters, and what I like to do is I actually like to dip my cutters into powdered sugar. Sorry guys, I had to run out of there because I forgot that I had a parchment paper lined pan in there and it was burning. Thank God I caught it. Like, so embarrassing. On my first live and my kitchen burns down. But anyway, so here we are. And I'm going to take it, cut it, and cut it. And I'm only going to do 2 to demonstrate this for you guys so you can see it. But as far as designs, I really would suggest to go with the basic shapes. So hearts, circles, rectangles, and try to practice piping on them first and testing out sugar cookie dough recipes and see if you like those recipes so that you don't have to throw out dough or so that they don't come out right. You know what I mean? So like practice with basic shapes first. Okay, so now what I'm doing is to take this out is I actually like to dip my knife into a little bit of powdered sugar so that I'm able to remove my cookies from the mat. And you do this slowly. And as you can see, this didn't lose its shape at all. There we are. I'm going to place it into my pan. And I'm going to place this other one. And in the meantime, while they bake, you guys can ask me any question that you have. I'm going to set them in here. And I'm going to bake them for 12 minutes at 325. Okay, let's see. Where's everybody from? California, Texas. Were you guys here? Oh my God, this was so embarrassing. Have you used brown sugar in this recipe? I have. I actually altered this recipe, I think it was last year. So I tried this recipe with brown sugar because I was making, it wasn't a gingerbread recipe, but it was. So I changed the regular sugar for brown sugar and it turned out pretty nice. I've seen you experimenting on Instagram with Haniela's recipe. Let's see, where else is everybody from? Pennsylvania, yay. And what I was saying in the beginning is that it's very easy to adjust this recipe for any flavor that you want. So it's a very basic recipe, but it's my go-to sugar cookie dough base. So you can add sprinkles, chocolate chips, different flavorings to this specific recipe and it will work. Do you happen to have a cupcake video with tips on how to keep them moist? How far in advance can you make them? Tips and etc. I don't have a video at the moment, but I can certainly upload one for you. I'm actually working on creating new content and making new videos for you guys. So that is definitely one that I'll put on my list. So cupcake video, how to keep them moist and how far in advance to make them with tips and etc. Hi, Tammy. Oh my God. You missed me almost burning my kitchen. You guys, I literally almost burned my kitchen. Like, you know, whoever stayed on here for the live, when I was like super quiet and was running and like I disappeared from here, I forgot that I put a baking sheet with parchment paper on the bottom part, like the warming drawer of my oven with parchment paper. So when I turned it on, it started burning and it was scary. Like I'm sweating. My husband is in the other room, so I'm like, I'm trying to be quiet because I know he smells it, but he knows that I'm on live. So he's probably trying not to come in here. So anyway, it smells like burn. And I took that thing out there and I threw water at it. It was crazy. Oh my God. Anyway, it was like so nerve-wracking. Sorry. But yeah, my heart is still racing. I feel so crazy for even admitting that on YouTube live. Has that ever happened to any of you guys? Like you almost burned down your kitchen? Look at y'all trying to be like super goody two shoes. Anyway, I'm going to continue to roll out the rest of the dough because I'm going to end up baking the rest of the cookies anyway. But as far as keeping this dough, you can definitely make this in advance. I have made it in advance, and what I do is I'll actually roll it out on this mat and I'll store it flat. So I'll roll it out and then I'll put it in parchment paper with plastic and I'll put it, if I'm using it that week, in the refrigerator. If I'm using it in a few, I don't know, a few days or a few weeks from then, I'll put it into the freezer. I left the house with cookies in the oven. Oh my God, girl. Oh, that is like my worst nightmare. I started smelling burn and I was like, oh, is it because I haven't turned on my oven in like 3 months here? But no, it was because something was actually burning. Jesus Christ. Wow. Like, wow. That was pretty scary. Now I'm whispering because I feel like if I whisper, my husband won't hear me. Yes, dripped grease from a turkey in the stove. Girl! Oh, it was so scary. Oh my God. Wow. Like, if you guys could have followed me, like, with a camera out there. I was so scared because I was like, what if my glove catches on fire? Oh, girl, I'm just glad that I didn't get burned. But anyway, somebody says over here, I left cupcakes ones in the oven overnight and forgot to tell my husband. He turned on the oven trying to preheat it for something and the cupcakes burned. Oh, girl. That's my worst nightmare. Like, I'm so scared. Oh, like, I'm still shaking like a leaf. Anyway, our cookies still have 8 minutes to go, but you can also use this recipe with metal cutters. Just in case you were wondering, it works great with really any type of cutters. And usually with my metal cutters, I don't have to dip into powdered sugar, but you can, just to make sure, like if you have little corners, that they don't burn. And I noticed, guys, when I was running out there, a few of you left because I can see who's watching and all. Not who's watching, but how many people are watching. Because y'all probably thought like, oh, Cynthia doesn't know what she's doing. But no, Cynthia was busy trying to like put out a fire. Okay, that's what I was doing. That's why I left you guys unattended here for a while. Oh, my husband's probably like laughing in the other room. More like he's probably not laughing. He's probably like super worried. So, girl, I don't know. Anyway, so here's how this looks. And I don't know if you noticed, but like I'm all flustered. Like I'm actually sending these to my sister. She doesn't know. So if you're looking or if you're watching, sister, these are for you. But anyway, that was so scary. Ugh. I feel like I can't even talk loud anymore. And also, when you are picking up your cookies, what I suggest is to take off the excess dough. Take it off. Take it off. And then go to pick out the shapes that you're cutting. There we go. Okay. You see? So they rarely, like they really don't even lose their shape. And once these are finished baking, I'll show you how much they expand, if any. So I don't know if you guys have any more questions, but for now, I'm just going to repeat the recipe while this is done. So we have 1 cup of unsalted butter, which is 2 sticks. We have 1 1/4 cup of granulated sugar that you can also replace with powdered sugar. 1 large egg. We have 1 tablespoon of vanilla, half a teaspoon of almond extract. We have 3.5 cups plus 2 heaping tablespoons of flour. And what else do we have? I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, we have a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder and half a teaspoon of salt. So what I didn't mention earlier is that actually the baking powder is what causes cookies to lose their shape, or not to lose their shape, but they expand. But that's what causes cookies to spread. So you know, on some recipes where they require for you to refrigerate them, that's why, because probably the content or the amount of baking powder is a lot higher. So you have to refrigerate it so that they don't spread too much when they're baking. So the fact that this recipe only has a 1/4 teaspoon, I keep wanting to say a 1/4 cup, a 1/4 teaspoon is great because you don't have to refrigerate it and it works fine. So anyway, oh, you guys, I'm like so scared. I'm still scared. Hola, Erika. Es un gusto verte también. You guys, what do you, like, when all this happened to y'all, like when y'all left the house and almost burned it down, what else did you do? Hi, I'm from Pakistan. Can you tell me what design? Oh my God, Fatima, you're watching me all the way from over there. Hi. Okay, so I'm going to tell you guys, when I was a beginner, I still feel like a beginner, but these sugar cookie cutters are very good, Fatima. So if you guys are starting out, you're a beginner, these are sweet sugar bell cookie cutters. I suggest cookie cutters that come with stencils, not stencils, but like guides or photos of what you're doing so that you can follow. All of her cookie cutters have little pictures with how the cookie is supposed to look. So I really recommend these as, and I think half of my cutters are actually from her. But for beginners, like I said earlier, basic shapes. So as long as you can outline a circle and decorate a circle, you can do any other cookie. Because I think in the beginning, a lot of it is practice on piping. And when we first start to pipe, we think that we have to touch the tip of the bag of icing to our cookies, but you really don't. You just kind of like have to drag it. So maybe that'll be my next live, something that doesn't require fire because I'm not great with fire. But anyway, what am I making, says Carissa. We are making sugar cookies, and the recipe, guys, I will post it on the descriptions of everywhere. It's also on my YouTube channel. You can find it on my Instagram. And if you have any questions, don't forget to leave them in the comments. Send me a DM, leave me a comment on Facebook, on Instagram, whatever, and I'll help you guys out. But our cookies are almost done. Yay. Okay. And don't forget, you ran home, no fire, thank goodness. Oh my God, thank God. So as soon as these come out, I'm going to show you how they look. And then once they're cool, I will post the results on my Instagram, on the community tab on my Facebook page. Not on Facebook, the community tab on YouTube and on my Facebook page. So make sure that you're following me everywhere. Everywhere that you go, my name is Very Cherry Cakes. Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, YouTube, whatever, I'm everywhere. So I'll put that there. And these are about done. Okay, so here's our cookie. And I want to just kind of show you for perspective. And I'll bring you guys one at a time because I don't know how to multi-hold you. But so here's, and I'll show you this better on another live. But this is the raw one and that's the baked one. Do you see how well that maintained its shape? Let me show you next to the cutter. You can still see the pointy edges. So, super proud. Let me bring you YouTube guys over here so you can see. Okay, so I think that's a good angle for you. That's it, you guys. That is it for me because I need to go calm down after I almost set my apartment on fire. I'm sweating. Do you guys see how shiny my eyebrow is? That is sweat. Sweat, okay. Se ven súper. Gracias, Erika. ¿Cuánto de alto tienen las galletas? Es 1/4 de pulgadas. So the cookies are 1/4 inch thick, and that is all, you guys. I am gonna go now and try to calm down after I almost set my house on fire. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to share the replay with your friends, share it on your social media, and don't forget to subscribe before you go to my YouTube channel.